Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
God dang.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our October webinar. We are going to give people 3 minutes to jump online, and we will get started shortly.
All right.
Muted.
I was muted. George, you going to New Orleans next week?
Unmuted.
World?
No, I've got to be somewhere else.
No. Hey, any of you people, any of you guys going to New Orleans next month? Marie, Scott, Aaron, Chad? Anyone going? See if anyone answers. No. Okay. Yeah. I wonder.
Listen,
I don't
New
know.
Orleans is not a good place for conferences.
I don't like New Orleans. I don't like getting drunk. I just think it's overrated.
Well, I don't think you have to get drunk, but
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've been to a conference in New Orleans. But yeah, they say it's a masked event, and I'm speaking. I'm going to be on stage, I think, 3 times, and I'm just thinking, are they going to make me wear a mask when I speak?
I've been to a couple things. No one's wearing masks in large groups anymore. You walk in, you see most people don't have it on. You take it off to have your glass of wine at the reception, whatever.
I have a feeling that's how it's going to go. I'm hoping that's right. I'm hoping that's right.
And the ESCO is in Austin, where in Texas, I'm sure it's the same.
Oh, yeah, that was Texas. New Orleans is more strict. I don't know why.
Yeah, New Orleans is going to be a little different than Austin, Texas. But I just went to a conference in Waco, Texas, and it was pretty much normal, wide open, didn't matter.
But they did say you have to wear masks.
But nobody did.
I got one.
Yeah, maybe we should practice. We should put our masks on. We'll give this talk with our masks on. That's a good idea. All right. Tyler's the time. Give another minute.
So, why don't you kick it off? So you should see the cover slide here, and I'll click to the next slide. I'll take it away.
Oh, good. There we go. All right, that's all the official stuff about George there.
Yeah, gosh, who's ever comfortable when one of those things are read or put up?
I know.
I've been around a long time, and I've seen a lot of things.
And George just assured me that he's a grown-up, so we're going to be just fine here.
I am a grown-up, and
Okay, George. So we're getting started. This is not going to be one of these slideshow presentations. It's going to be more of just a talk between me. I'm more the interviewee more than anything, and George, who's the one we're really here to listen to, who used to work for an ESCO and then has worked on the other side of the table from ESCOs. I don't know if that's how you'll characterize it, but you can do that later. Let me keep talking for a minute. And then yeah, and we're just going to take it from there. But I think what you're going to find is some interesting stories of ESCOs who've done well and ESCOs who have really screwed up. And he won't reveal any names because he's a grown-up. So first off, George, you used to work for ESCO. When you started, I think I first met you, I think it was about 20 years ago. Is that about right?
Wow, that sounds about right. Yeah, at a metrics training, I started in the field as a measurement and verification engineer, performance assurance, but you all know the names that role has. And that was, in 2001.
2000. Huh.
Yeah. And so
Yeah, and then you went to an advanced class in Vegas, I remember. And
another bad place for conferences and trainings, but go on.
no, that was a great place. That was a great place. We always went to the Star Trek experience when we used to do those. And yeah, I remember I took my wife and daughter that time, and we didn't have air conditioning in my car because I was a pretty cheap guy back then. I still am, but I thought that air conditioning, why would you spend extra $2,000-3,000 on air conditioning if you don't have to? So we're driving to Vegas, and it was probably 100 degrees outside. My baby's in the back seat of the car. It was hot and crap. I just had a spray bottle. I just keep spraying her every 5 or 10 minutes, and she was just fine. She didn't know any better. I mean, she didn't know any better. You can't complain. So anyway, so George he did M&V for an ESCO, and how long did you do that?
Boy, I have probably just a couple of years. Well, it was a small team. So in addition to, or I guess toward the end of that, I started picking up energy engineering, project development activity as well. So it was a bit of everything on the development side, I guess, and then on the back end side with the M&V. Tell you a funny story. So we had, I'll never forget it. We had these shared excess savings clauses in the guarantee, and it's 2001, 2002. I'm this 24-year-old kid. Well, the way that the funding worked out between the client, this was in the government space, the way the funding worked out for them, the funds that they received in excess of the guarantee were a couple $100,000, which, I mean, right off the top, could tell you all in the audience here, that means a lot of scope was left on the table if all of that was going to be captured in excess. So anyway, the shared savings clause says, all right, well, we split any excess 50-50. So here I'm this 24-year-old punk going down and going into a client's office and telling them, you need to write me a $100,000.
Nice, that's excellent. But you could pull that off, or at least now you could.
Well, and they did. They wrote the check. Of course, I told them in advance, but I had to explain it. Because what often happens, as you all may know, any excess, a lot of times these savings, even the excess, even the base savings, they get spent. The finance people don't account for them, and they just get eaten up. And
that's right.
There's confusion and sometimes, a bit of semi-hostility toward, well, wait a minute, why am I making this 6-figure payment to this bank and I don't see savings?
That's right.
But anyhow, in this case, so I go down, I get the check, or I explain it again. I try to talk about some strategies to be ready for this next time because it's probably going to continue to happen. And I'm handed this 6-figure check. Again, I'm 24 years old. I'm scared out of my mind that I'm going to lose.
Yeah, right.
So anyhow, that was one of my early experiences.
Killer. So George he's an unusual guy. He was, at least I remember this at the Vegas training. My wife and I, we left right after the training, but we had the hotel one more day. So we gave it to George, and George stayed in our hotel room. I don't know what you were planning on doing otherwise, but he stayed in our hotel room after we left. But there was a party across the hall, and we were looking for George, and he was in the party across the hall. I mean, that's just how he was. He had this capacity for being really good with people. He could just go crash any party, and everybody thinks he belongs there. He didn't belong. But anyway, I figured this guy needs to be in sales. He's a sales guy, and he ended up in sales. So how long were you in sales at this ESCO?
Ooh, at this ESCO, if I'm fair with all the time, this was wow, 10 years. Wait, that's not right. No, 8 years.
I think longer than that.
No, it wasn't, because remember, I went to work for another ESCO. So maybe it was 10 years. Because I switched over into sales because I realized, well, wait a minute, I understand how these things are put together. I can deal with the clients. I know, at least I think I know, where some of the pain points are for the different disciplines within an organization. I'm following around a person who doesn't know the technical side, so I could probably pull this off. So I switched over, And then a couple years in, I saw greener grass across the street. The grass isn't greener across the street. So I ended up coming back just a couple years later. And that was in '07. And then I left in 2015.
Okay, yeah, so maybe it was 10 years. Huh. All right. So now you do, what is it you do now?
Mm.
You're a third party guy?
Yeah, so there are different terms, industry terms for it. The federal government calls it a project facilitator. The general industry term is owner's representative.
Right.
I hear owner's agent. I hear different things. And in the construction industry, owner's representative is somewhat a known quantity, known entity. But in this space, one of the challenges, one of my goals, tasks, is to broaden the awareness, because I'm not the only one doing this. There are other folks out there. There's other resources
Oh, yeah.
available to clients, but some folks don't
Right.
know about them, and they hindsight.
Right. And this is, I mean, really, so performance contracting, we both agree, I think, that overall it's an incredible deal. I mean, because people get all this equipment and they really don't pay for it. It's just utility pays for it, really, because they're not getting money anymore. And so the money goes to the ESCO who puts it in. That's all great. But the clients, they don't know anything often. They're really the dumb one in this I don't know if you call it a contract, in this agreement or this whole setup. They don't really get it. And a lot of them get into these ESCO deals, and I think that they're totally outplayed. I think they're totally outplayed. And that's why it's really smart to have someone play for you. I guess it's kind of like going into court without a lawyer and trying to represent yourself. You're going to get your ass kicked. But if you have a lawyer, I think you stand a better chance. And that's pretty much what your job is. You're not a lawyer, but you're kind of like the lawyer, that you represent the client and make sure that they don't get run all over. Does that sound about right?
That's about right. Yeah, back in my ESCO days, or back in my days on the development side, well, both the development and the sales side, where a different office or region, I know the ESCOs typically are broken up into there's autonomous decision making in a different, the Nevada people are going to handle things differently than will the Massachusetts people. And so
Right.
you see some things and decisions made that are pretty aggressive in terms of either pushing performance risk off to the client, or increasing profit, because that, to John, to your point, that the client can't really see what's going on, right? You've explained the ESCO pricing as this mysterious, you've got your indirect fees, and then you've got your direct project costs, and then all your indirect costs. Some of those indirect costs are direct costs for management and engineering, and then, okay, now we need to put a cost of guarantee risk, which is bullshit. Put a guarantee risk cost on it, and then we're going to put bonds in, and then we're going to mark all that up with overhead and profit, sometimes compounded in the formula if the client's not paying attention.
Right.
So, over the years, and look, I've worked with some very great people, lots of passionate, dedicated people, and I've worked with some folks that it's like I wouldn't trust this guy with my wallet but there he is, and I'll be damned, he's assistant manager. I guess I better just keep my mouth shut. So you see different things, but it's not just that. Right? I focused in that example on the financial side, but sort of the four pillars of a performance contract. Right? You've got your financial, you've got your technical, you've got your legal, and you got your political. No, I'm not an attorney, but I can read and understand a state code of ordinance and see if something in your contract is directly conflicting with that. But that's, I'm probably going to get off on a tangent here. John, you asked me a simple question.
God dang, you went so far on a tangent, I don't even remember my damn question.
You asked if what you said
I want to add to, let's just take it from here.
Okay.
So yeah, you're talking about the clients, they're getting overpowered in this whole negotiation because they're clueless. I mean, you give them this performance contract document that's, maybe 2 volumes and it's like 4 inches thick or something. That'll overwhelm anybody.
Sure.
Anybody. Unless you already know about energy. You already seen many of these before, and then you can just, where to zero in and put your attention. But for a lay person, it's like, they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. That's why they need people like you. I'm not trying to sell your services. The people listening aren't going to buy your services. So, that's not the point. Anyway, so now you're doing this third-party stuff. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what you've seen?
Yeah, so
you can start with the beginning of the whole process and just the funny things that you've seen here and there.
Sure. I mean, you start from the very beginning. The development and solicitation phase. So these things, what you all, and this being on the client side of the table has just been this enlightening experience for me. I'm really grateful for it. You see that there is one group within the organization that has either been told to or bought off on this performance contract. They're the only ones that think it's going to happen. Everybody else is like, whatever, we'll go through the motions. Maybe this is something, maybe it's not. So in drafting up or explaining the concepts and potential benefits, potential pitfalls, you realize just how little people know about what they're going to get themselves into, or how little they realize what they're about to get themselves into. You've got to develop an RFP, and then you run into purchasing people that say, no, our standard solicitation documents include all of this. And if it's an RFP, we've got to ask for firm pricing on all these ECMs. And okay, now I need to have an additional session with this person to tell them why that's not a good idea and it's not possible. I saw one where I was brought on after the fact, after the RFP was released, and was given a copy of the RFP and asked to help develop a scoring matrix. I look at this RFP and I said, oh my God, you are about to get responses that you want nothing to do with. This, you haven't asked the right questions. Sure enough, 1,500 each volume per ESCO shows up as the response. But okay, process-wise, what do we go through? So we go through the...
Wait. Tell me about these. So you got 2 of these responses. Did you throw them both out and start over?
Oh, no. There were 5 responses. Each response had 2 volumes. Each was about 1,500 pages.
Okay.
So in this instance, the client looks at me and says, well, surely, we're not going to read. So
That's a lot of reading.
I get to read all of that. And boy, that took me back to my side on proposal writing when I was in sales, and I realized what a schmuck I must have been all that time. Like, all this crap I'm saying, it's just fluff. I'm making some poor bastard read through this, and now I'm that poor bastard sitting there flipping through these pages. It's the same stuff. Now, one of the things that I'm doing is documenting all of these commitments. Oh, we're going to run our subcontractor process this way. Oh, this is how we develop pricing for EC. And I'm writing all this down because, okay, well, it's part of my review because I take and try to develop a Reader's Digest of the proposal responses. Right? Because the clients, the things that I think some of the ESCO leadership realizes, but I don't think they give enough empathy maybe to it, is these folks have other jobs. This is one project to them.
Yeah.
Right? And this is the ESCO sort of daily activity. This is what they do. But the client, anyhow, long story short, so this 500-page document comes in. I read it and turn it into 20 pages.
Yeah.
That here with references to where you can find it in the proposal and all that sort of thing. I am very careful never to say, look, this approach is better than this approach. Because these are public dollars. I don't work there. I've not been elected. It's not my way to say, it's not my place, I feel anyway, to say this is better than that. I can
Good,
say, based on the RF,
good.
based on what you've asked, here's the answer. Here's how the ESCO says, you want to know how prices developed? Well, on page 8 of 259 of section D, here's where they say how the developed prices. In a nutshell, they say this, this, and this.
Yep.
Keep it moving. Now, what we've done even before then, of course, is develop a scoring criteria that helps them with the really subjective nature of determining what's going to be best. If you want to have 5, and I'm picking on the subcontracting process, if you want to see 5 bids for HVAC from each sub, and then you pick the best value, and then ESCO A says that they're going to take 5 bids and do this, well, that one matches what you said, so that should get the most scoring points. Maybe it's a bad example.
Yeah, because because what they said wasn't necessarily a good scoring criteria to begin with, right?
That's yes. That part's a bad example. You want to talk about experience of personnel. Have they worked on facilities like these? What's their team makeup? Have they chosen subcontractors already? And we know that this, plumbing subcontractor is a crook. Not to pick. I hope nobody has plumbing background. Those are some of the kinds of things that you sit and talk about, and it becomes time for the staff to make a recommendation to the leadership, the elected officials, what have you. So what do they have to do? They have to vote and make a recommendation. I generally excuse myself from that process because, again, I don't work there. I'm not an elected official. What if someone says, "Oh, well, George likes JCIs because he used to play golf with someone there," or whatever. So to keep that out of there, I just don't get involved in it. I think others do, or others have.
That's smart. That's really smart, George. I would have tripped up there and I would have said, "This is definitely the best. Go with this one." I could have gotten in trouble. That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart.
So
go ahead.
Well, I was going to go through the whole process. That seems kind of boring.
Well, I want to hear stuff that's kind of interesting. So these are M&V people mostly that are listening in.
Okay.
I think what's interesting to them is a little bit the PDE stuff, so the projects themselves, how ESCOs screw up, how ESCOs get a good or bad reputation among the clients, because that's kind of important to these M&V people, because once there's a bad reputation, then they've got to live with it, because the client thinks that they suck when they maybe don't. They might be on the client side. So
yeah. So what I see most often is management decisions by the ESCO that trip up their development teams.
Yes.
First off, we draft up these RFPs or RFQs seeking to hire a firm to conduct an ASHRAE Level 3 investment grade energy audit. That never happens.
No.
These are scoping audits. These are all scoping audits. We are getting into the field and going as quickly as we can toward what we can sell them.
Yeah. Well, why would you want to spend? I mean, what you're talking about was a huge project. How many millions of dollars was this, more or less? It was over 40 million or something, or?
Well, the combined projects I'm talking about is 130 million.
Yeah, so it's a big project, and who's going to want to do an IGA and pay for all of that when you only have a 20% chance of winning? That's not a good investment.
No. So what you're talking about is some states have this process where they want the ESCOs to go and do these full-on development exercises, and the client picks them.
Okay, they did a PA first, then you do. Okay, I got it. They selected 4 ESCOs to do an IGA, and you got the job if you've done good. Right? That's
right. So in this case, 4 separate ESCOs were selected to perform 5 audits. One of the ESCOs had 2.
Right.
Very few actual, and again, the selection was for an investment grade energy audit. And so what we got was, okay, here are your 20 ECMs. let's start looking at these. And all y'all in the call have seen these. Everybody's got this Excel-based tool where you click on and off things, and then your cash flow goes positive and negative, and so on and so forth. So I think that was one of the decisions. The folks doing the development were extremely sharp and creative and so on, but I did not see much of a, hey, the contract says we have to do all these things to produce this audit report. I didn't see that stuff happening, and that was one of our constant pushback, elements of pushback, if you will, to say, hey, you're missing this, you're missing that, you're missing that. Now, to the ESCO's credit, as you all also know, the clients can be challenged in their ability to stay focused, to find information, right? I mean, in the perfect world, yeah, you come in and you ask for, MEPs and all this stuff. The clients don't have that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And if they do, things have changed, and maybe it wasn't recorded properly. And oh, do you have DWG files? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
No,
What's that?
right. So it's this balance of the client, or excuse me, the ESCO trying to perform a development exercise and the client trying to react and respond to that development exercise, again, while the client's life is still going on.
Yes.
People are still coming in the buildings to work. They're wondering who these people are. You're talking about data loggers. People think you're putting tattlers in their offices to see how often they're working or taking phone calls. So, you have all those sorts of considerations. I think that as that process is going on, standards of comfort becomes another area where a little more attention could stand to be paid. So you assume that this area of the building is generally run at 68 degrees. Well, there's a male mayor in office. So yes, it is. Guess what? The next mayor is female. That room will be run at 73 degrees. These kinds of things, and you can't put a complete crystal ball on everything, but a little more attention to the human element of performance guarantees could be there. I mean, you can see that these folks aren't going to be able to keep up with some of these requirements. So you've got to be willing to pull an ECM or two off the table to get them more service support, perhaps. Depending on what how the financials break out. I mean, I get it. We're in the business of developing and delivering projects, but some of these folks end up getting left holding the bag. They were never going to be able to do these prescriptive elements of the guarantee, not in the way that you've written them out.
Was anyone? I thought some ESCOs were pulling a fast one on your client at one point in their IGAs or anything like that. Was there anything kind of weird or suspicious on any of those?
There's, I wouldn't say pulling a fast one. There is identifying a cost as necessary to complete the work that's not really a cost. You're not going to incur that cost. You can get there. And so we encourage our friends in the ESCO industry to be very transparent with all of the pricing and indirect fees and all that, because if there is excess money, well, all right, let's talk about some way to share in it, or you just do more scope or something like that. You don't just get to keep it. And that's pretty, I mean, I understand how the how the financials and the goals are set up among some of the leadership. But I mean, that's not a good thing. What else you have is the underdevelopment of ECMs from
That's what I was going to ask about, value engineering.
From a costing perspective. So, okay, we're trying to get this thing to close, so we'll make all of these assumptions and estimates. When you said in the RFP response that you weren't going to use estimates. You were going to have real subcontractors come out and walk the sites. And so this performance contract is based on you providing all of the work, capital W work, necessary to install and complete the ECM. And so, you know, the whistle blows, you know, the ball is snapped, and you're installing your ECM. Uh-oh, wow, you didn't tell us this pipe was here. No, you didn't tell us this pipe was here.
That's right.
I thought
right.
you were paid for an investment grade energy audit. Oh, well, we couldn't possibly have known that we would have to pump out all that water. It's a water plant. What the hell did you think was going to be? You know, oh, well, gosh, this equipment isn't performing exactly as specified. It's been in the ground for 60 years. No, it's not performing as specified. So then you get into the back and forths, and this is where some clients or the detractors from the industry say, well, look, it's just like anything else. They're just going to try to get a contract signed, and then they're going to change order you to death. And the difference here is, outside of a typical bid spec approach, is there's a clock ticking, right? And when the bell rings, a nice person from the bank shows up and says, hey, congratulations on your performance contract. You owe me the first payment. So the client has this, you know, this anvil over their head because they got to get the work done. So they agree to share in some of the risk when the whole premise is the ESCO was supposed to. I'm not talking about, you know, finding like a poltergeist, you know, cemetery underground kind of thing. I'm talking about things that with a little extra effort, the development team could have found that. With real experienced contractors, someone would have said, hey, yeah, I've worked in this building before. None of those stairwell fans work. So whatever ventilation scheme you're cooking up, it's not going to work. But no,
They should have known that. It was an IGA.
It was an IGA.
So here's a question then. What would you consider a legitimate unknown circumstance or situation where there would be a legitimate change order? In this case, you're suggesting these change orders probably are pretty much illegitimate. And did your client not give them extra cash to
No. That's
the right answer.
And that's one of the, you know, this is one of the places where I'm gonna push back against the ESCO all the way. Look, you submitted and received a certificate of acceptance for an investment grade energy audit. I just can't. There's nothing.
Right.
You know what? There was one. In fact, I'm glad probably more than one, but there's one I agreed to. So, wastewater treatment plant, there was a gate that was submerged, and there was no way to confirm whether or not that gate would fully close and seal off this area. And so during the audit, during the audit, other than putting people in scuba gear and whatnot, in which, in which case you still don't want to jump in there, you could not have known. So, okay, we understand. Let's try to figure this out together.
Right. I'll buy that. So, but what about this? What would you, do you have some general terms for what is a legitimate change order in a performance contract?
Well, in general, there's nothing. There's no general. And even in the case I described, what a certain segment in the client organization was upset because once the channel was pumped out and drained, and you could see, all right, we can't get this thing completely dry, so we can't work. The client said, well, if these folks were real contractors, they would have just jumped in there and put a bulk. They would have figured it out instead of saying, oh, it's not working. we're going to have
Yeah.
to demobilize, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, you want an experienced project management and construction management team. That goes back to checking references, and
Yeah.
I think going forward in the future, I'll be more aggressive with checking references of individuals.
Well, but the thing is, the ESCOs always put their PhDs and whatever on the resumes, right? Not necessarily the individuals, and then they'll send the junior engineers out to do that, the audit.
That's right. And then they swap. And there's always contract language that says you can't do that without permission. But that's one of those areas where people like, it's fine. They're being, you know, George is being managed by John, so it's okay. Like, no, George is an idiot. And where's John? Well, he's off painting.
He's South Dakota. Yeah, he's off painting pictures. All right. So you got all these audits. So there was really nothing that I remember you
So,
some
yeah.
crap.
Well, so the audit, I mean, we reviewed 4 audits, and there, between the 4 of them, like 1,200 questions or comments. 1,200.
But who made these comments? You or your team?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, and other, you know, we brought in some folks with subject matter expertise where we looked and was like, okay, we don't understand this, so we know enough people, let's bring them in and have them look at this. And here, I mean, this is where you run into the realities of life and people. When people are involved, there's politics involved. So we start running up to the end of a milestone in the organization's cycle. And so it is, hey, you all have to get this wrapped up. Wait a minute now, we're still going through this Q&A. We're not completely satisfied with what's happening. Yeah, but we're being told that we have to wrap this up, so you have to wrap this up.
This is the ESCO telling you this, or the client?
This is the client. This is the client saying, hey, let's get on with it. What's the holdup? The entire time I'm generally banking on this. Look, there's an investment grade audit. There are these documents, the RFP, the response, any negotiation, all this stuff is strung together. They're all part of the flow of legal documentation. So we will find a way to make sure that we are protected.
Right.
The ESCO is taking the risk, and I'm not one who comes in. I've heard other folks in my space like, oh, well, the ESCOs just make so much of a premium, they should do this. All right, settle down. You don't have to take you don't have to take advantage of someone or try to harm them, right? I mean, the ESCOs exist. I mean, they are for-profit businesses. The people who work there, they are professionals that want to advance and grow their career. All right, everybody's trying to do the right thing here. It's just trying to find that balance between risk sharing and, the phrase we use, maximizing value, minimizing risk.
That's right. Damn, George. I didn't realize you're so damn mature.
Well, it took a while.
You're a lot more grown up than I am.
Bar days from the party across the hall in Vegas, which I have no idea what you're talking about, but I
figured that.
It doesn't surprise me.
All right. So what about, you approved this, eventually proved the IGAs, and these guys started construction. Running any problems with construction at all? Everything work out okay?
Yeah. Look, there are problems because, and look, and I'll be blunt here. In one case, on the client side, no one really believed this was going to happen. And this is, I'm going to obviously name any names or pick. No one believed it would happen, so no one was ready. So the ESCO starts ordering or sending out specifications for different, fixtures and equipment. And the client's like, well, wait a minute, what is this? Certain segments of the clients are, what is this? I don't want this. You don't want it. Well, no, we need to rethink this. No, there's no rethinking. Here's a signature on this document, and this signature
Yeah.
trumps your signature. So something is going to happen. So what we need you to do is start attending the meetings we've been inviting you to for the past 4 months. Only now you know your say is very limited. That happened. There was, like I said, issues with the approach of estimating, right? You estimated all these costs, and then you go out and you bring real subs in. Oh no,
I know.
we've missed by a lot. So we've got to start looking for ways to, well, we've got to start looking for remedies out of this. I mean,
And that's where the value engineering comes in.
well, that's where well, look, these folks from Archer Western, they're really good. They know what they're doing. But it's expensive. So let's go ask Bob if he's, not to pick on
Yeah,
anybody named Bob.
he's
I'm just gonna-
retired. He'll work for nothing.
yeah, but
Right.
yeah, he's good. He'll come in. So it's, there was issues with that. There are, of course, issues on the client side. Now, there were major sporting events where the ESCOs were told, you have to leave. And they're like, well, wait a minute. We're trying to install a chiller here. Well, not this weekend, you know? Yeah, that stuff happens. But look, these are construction projects. Stuff
Yeah.
happens.
All the time.
There
Everywhere.
was a construction manager who just rubbed everybody the wrong way. He was just he would speak to the client in these very condescending tones, and I mean, complete lack of emotional intelligence. And I'm calling the client leadership like, hey, everyone hates this guy.
Yeah.
You got to get this guy the hell out of here. And they didn't. And he persisted. I think that was one of the most joyous parts of the project ending, is that he's gone. Clients break things.
Huh.
The ESCO's trying to do controls work, and the client is saying, oh, yeah, we're going to help you out. And the ESCO shows up and like, well, who moved the thermostat? Where's the what happened to the thermostats in this zone here? Nobody knows anything. Come to find out, somebody coiled it up and put it up above the ceiling tile for whatever reason.
Crazy.
The ESCOs are trying to schedule training. The client's not showing up.
Yeah.
Or when they do, not paying attention.
Yeah.
It's these kinds of things that, you know, I don't think the clients will admit, but it happens. So it's not all, and I say these things because I don't want to paint the picture that it's just, oh my gosh, the ESCOs send out their B team and all hell breaks loose. No, sometimes the client sends its B team as well.
Wow.
And it just gets difficult.
Right. Because if they don't know how to run the equipment, they're going to run it wrong. And then you're not going to get the savings.
They are almost always going to run it wrong. Okay? And that there's a couple things on that. One, it has to. I would like to see larger offsets in these operating parameters to allow for that from the ESCOs, because it's not gonna happen, right? Oh, well, operating hours say 8 to 5. Like, all right, well, try 6:52 to 7:05. That's what's probably going to happen. So let's be realistic. Some of these things are new, and clients, at least the leadership, the director level, yeah, they might want everybody to rise to this fantastic level of professional development and service and perform their PMs and all that stuff. The people on the ground are not. If they were directors, then they wouldn't be sitting in the training session staring at their phone or looking off into space. So it's just not gonna go that way. And here's what is very, very unfortunate for taxpayers, quite frankly, in a couple years, nobody's going to care.
Right.
Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to know. Particularly in schools, right? A superintendent's shelf life is 3 years. School board members, some of these are some of the wackiest people to come out of the community, and they end up on this school board. They just don't care. Here's debt. Debt is a total of $2 million a year in debt. Well, where's that going? Well, to bankers. Well, what for? Oh, we bought some computers, we bought some furnaces or some Liebert units or something like that back. It goes away. This is where things like eProject Builder from the federal government, I think they're trying to get a better handle on this.
What's eProject Builder? Maybe everybody here knows what it is, but I don't know.
eProject Builder, as I understand it, is a way to track and report savings on building this massive database of projects on a national level. The federal government, I don't know if they require it. As I understand it, they use it quite often. I don't think that will ever roll to states because states like to be independent. ESCOs like to keep their projects quiet.
I can't see the rank and file of your client, if someone's using it or not, if it's going to affect them at all. I don't see that.
Yeah, you would have to have some think tank or intern going around and interviewing clients for their information. But then clients are going to be hesitant to hand over the information. I mean, I looked at a post-construction measurement and verification report that said almost $576,000 had been saved during the construction period. All right, let's unpack this. Let's look at all these assumptions and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay, none of this stuff has even actually happened yet. So, you're taking credit for things that you're taking credits for rebate checks that haven't shown up. You're taking credit for sewer rate credits that it needs 12 full months of data, but you just finished, but you're counting that as savings. You're saying that this control system, which is in a very secure environment and thus cannot be connected to the network. So you've set up a standard machine there. You're going to come quarterly and collect data. You're claiming savings, but you haven't collected the data. What are you talking about?
Crazy.
And so you say these things to the client, and they're like, "Gosh, I'm glad this is good. Thanks for this. We did not have a construction period guarantee, but this is going to give us lots of food for thought for the first full year savings guarantee." And then you find out that the client hasn't paid the ESCO the agreed upon amounts for M&V.
Wait, no.
Well,
What does that mean?
This means you're sort of breaking the agreement, right?
Right.
Pay this, they do that. That's how it works.
Yeah.
If you don't pay, they get to drop the guarantee. Do you understand that?
Right. Right.
Well, we're really looking. We've got to figure out. Look in the budget for it. Look in the budget. You have basically a multi-million-dollar insurance policy that you're just going to let lapse. You did not need an ESCO to do this stuff if you were going to do it this way. And then it was, well, George, there are other priorities. All right, last I'm going to say about it.
So that was the end of the guarantees?
That's it.
Oh my God.
In one case. And I don't understand it.
One of the 4 ESCOs.
Yeah.
In one case, okay, one of the 4 ESCOs. But the other 3 are still getting paid for their guarantee.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't even. It's even more baffling with that said.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, the clients have to pay their debts. The clients aren't going to default on debts. Maybe some of you on the West Coast, the city of Stockton defaults or something. Anyway, in general, clients aren't going to default on their debts. They're going to find a way to pay, and
Huh. But they can choose not to pay for M&B anymore, I suppose, right?
I saw that in the past when I was on the ESCO side, where a couple years, 2 years, 3 years, of the
Yeah.
client seeing the savings and saying, look, I'm kind of happy with this. I like you, but do we need to keep doing this? Well, no.
Yeah, you proved it works. Why
Right.
do I need to do this?
Now, in the one case, like, well, no, but you have to keep paying X.
No. Yeah, we want the check every year, but no more MP.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, there's, and oftentimes, as you all know, the client doesn't understand the M&V report, right? I mean, you're wanting them to go back to appendix data from calculations, which, I mean, in the audit reports, just these formulas appear, right? Where are all the actual numbers and the connections? Well, those are in Excel files with 30 tabs. So here's this M&V report that says, hey, congratulations, you made your savings. Or it says, well, you would have made your savings if you had operated this equipment properly. That is,
Right.
I hear all this emphasis on M&V, and did I hear that a new M&V or update to? I don't know. I hear all this emphasis on it, but
Emphasis on what?
M&V.
Okay.
But to me, it's not so much an emphasis on the M&V as is the savings guarantee, because these things are written in a way that, again, it tails you win, tails you win. No, heads I win, tails you lose. That's the expression. But the client is told, oh no, this is all fine. This is all, you're really protected here. And that's where I love to see these cost of guarantee risk line items. You don't have any risk. I mean, only guaranteed 60% of the savings you calculated. I mean, how do you lose here? But, what's my job? My job is to get the client to the desired outcome. You and your team told me, you want a performance contract that accomplishes these 5 goals and doesn't leave you in a complete state of desolation. Okay, I can do that. I can help you get there. Now, some of these other things where you all, we need decisions, we need somebody to be aggressive and direct the law department to do this, that, and the other. Somebody else has to handle that stuff. Again, I'm on your side, but I don't work here.
Right. So now some of these ESCOs, though, didn't some get better reputations than others?
You mean after the fact or beforehand?
Yeah, both.
Yeah, one did pretty poorly.
How did they blow their reputation?
Oh, let's see.
It's interesting, these webinars, people are always like editing what they say because
I don't want to get sued here.
I understand that, George. I get it. I get it.
Well, look, there was a lot of blame placed on the client, and it just wasn't a team spirit. And folks think that people don't. No, people talk, right? I mean, so what I'm saying now, the attendees, you all can certainly imagine. What I'm saying now, if John and I get together, I'm going to say a completely different thing. I'm going to say, well,
I know. Can you believe what this guy did?
Yeah, this is this guy's name. This is where he lives. These are the exact things he did. If you ever see his name, oh, for God's sake, do not hire them. So there was that. There was, and I guess this isn't hurting a reputation per se, but it is, hey, these people do good work, but they're really unpleasant to work with. There is this, these are the things that I carry forward, right? So when I am working with a new client and they say, oh, such and such salesperson has been to see me, or hey, I got these proposals and I could use help reviewing them. Well, I read and say, okay, well, here's what I know about these people and about when an ESCO says they're going to take this approach, I can tell you they're not going to. This is what they're actually going to do. And oh, okay, let's really call and check references. And because everything is so litigious these days, or maybe not just these days, Instead of trying to say, oh, client said this much savings, did they achieve that? Because no one's going to answer that. You find as many people in the organization, you ask them the one question. If you had the chance to hire this group again, would you?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Questions I see. We're taking questions. Are there any questions?
I asked one of them. I got a comment or one question which I knew you couldn't answer, so I didn't ask. And one
Assume
was,
I couldn't answer.
well, it's a California question. I don't think you do much in California. One guy mentioned state of Maryland's requiring the use of eProject Builder on all future EPCs.
Yeah, there are some states with really active and engaged energy offices. Well, there are other states that have active and engaged offices, but it's still not. I mean, Maryland, that doesn't surprise me. A little more willing to go with the mandate type approaches. I live in Atlanta. No, we don't mandate much of anything around these parts.
Good and bad about that.
Yeah.
What about M&V? Tell me about M&V. Have you seen anything good or bad in M&V that's interesting that might be enlightening to the folks listening here? 'Cause these are mostly M&V.
I see a lot of running for cover in M&V, and what I mean by that is, we need you to do more to give us information.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. If you knew you needed all this, why wasn't this built into the price of the ECM? Oh, no. It's your responsibility to build the infrastructure to give us information. Well, what are you trying to verify? Because it looks like your savings are based on this other thing altogether. Oh, no. We still need all this other information just to verify performance before we even start performing the exercise that's laid out in the contract. Well, okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to build an infrastructure that allows the client to conduct its own M&V so that once I'm gone, they can still understand what it is you're saying and deliver counterpoints. I'm not interested in taking over M&V on behalf of the ESCO, or I don't like fighting and confrontation. Well, I don't mind.
No, you do like it. George does like it.
I just want folks to understand, and that's where I'm with every client. Look, if with all this stuff you're getting, try to get understanding.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Any last words? Any wisdom you can throw at us?
As I said before, keep the human element in mind. These people work in these places. They have other things going on than, oh, you're trying to get your project closed by the end of your fiscal year in September 30th. I mean, come on. These folks are trying to do a job the way that you're trying to do a job. Be mindful. Look, it's fashionable to talk about the proper thermostat settings, but that doesn't make it comfortable. I mean, give a little second thought. Don't install, cheap flush valve controllers that are just going to be firing off the damn thing valve every 5 seconds, because you're going to set up complaints among staff. So in developing the ECMs, just put a little, as cliche as it can be, think about it as if it were your own space, your own home, whatever the case may be.
Part of the problem with that is that, if they say, sometimes they're ESCOs are in competition with each other. And if one of them says, yeah, we're going to do setbacks, everybody leaves at 5, so we'll set everything back at 5, and they show up at 8, so we'll turn things back on at 6. And if they were more relaxed about it and said, well, we'll just turn things off at 7, maybe they wouldn't look as good as the other ESCO, right? I mean, sometimes they run into that, don't they? It's like, well, you're not very serious about energy. There's so much savings you're leaving on the table.
But you can describe why you're doing those things, and the client understands, right? I mean,
yeah, they can do that.
And the type of client that you just described that would even care about any of that stuff you just said is very sophisticated and educated enough to, all right, I get what I'm reading here. I understand. And the one that The one that's not that sophisticated, they are not, that section of the proposal response, they didn't see it.
No, I think you're right. All right, George, I think we're done. Hey, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. It was interesting. I learned quite a bit. It's all the stuff that I didn't want to learn when I was young. But once I get older, I'm realizing life's more nuanced. It's not just engineering black and white and right and wrong and numbers. It's more, it is about people. It really is. It really is.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, no problem. Tyler, what's going on? What's we got this updated or this upcoming webinars?
Yeah, John, do you want to discuss any of the upcoming ones? We got November, December, and then we moved the solar PV and option C one to January, if you want to talk about any of these.
Oh gosh, yeah. Hey, for solar, please, if you have solar examples, send them to me. I need more data. If you guys don't give me any data, I'm not going to give you this webinar. I just need more examples. And maybe solar is not a big deal. It's been a confusing issue, but I don't think anyone's really encountering it enough to, maybe that's the problem, because I'm sure not seeing a lot of examples. Send me some data on that if you can. The next time, Jim Waltz, we've had him before. He's going to talk about, he's a legal guy. He does third-party expert witness on performance contracting and construction. And he's always pretty interesting, very opinionated guy. So come back next month. George, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening to me ramble on. Hope it was valuable.
I liked it. Thanks, George.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.